We're here at the outdoor trade show in Liverpool where we will be looking at the climbing shoes that will be coming out throughout the year 2025. A few years ago we reviewed the Red Chili Voltage and we liked it. It was a good performance all-rounder, but they didn't catch it. We now have the Voltage X, which is basically a softer, more extreme version of the Voltage. So where the Voltage was a performance all-rounder, this is kind of a super performance all-rounder. So the good news for existing fans of the Voltage is that the Voltage X has exactly the same last, but it's got a softer midsole, hence is probably better suited towards bouldering than is sport climbing, depending on how steep the sport climbing you're doing is. It still has that 4mm of Vibram XS grip on the sole, but the hood on top, the toe patch, has a lot more rubber than the original Voltage, which is great from a toe hooking perspective. Red Chili have also updated the closure system. Whereas the original Voltage had 2 straps, this has a Z closure system, meaning that you can adjust the volume from both front and back a little more evenly than you could otherwise. We're looking forward to reviewing these, and we think these are going to be good from an outdoor bouldering perspective, particularly on those edges and also on those steeper problems where those toe hooks are going to come in useful. Here we have got 2 new shoes from Unparallel. We have got the Float and the Beat. And the Float is designed primarily with boulders in mind. It's oriented towards the sort of middle of their range and fits in between the Rise and the Flagship. Now the thing that's quite noticeable about this is the fact that it's got a stiff and quite supportive forefoot. Now the midsole itself is quite flexible, it is a bouldering shoe after all. If you're looking for performance on edges and that bit more support for your foot on those edges, then this looks like a really interesting shoe. On the bottom of the shoe, it features 3.5mm Unparallel's RS rubber. That's their softer compound. When it comes to volume and width, these sit somewhere in the middle. It's neither wide nor particularly narrow. And in the forefoot itself, there's enough room for your toes to be engaged, but not necessarily extreme and knuckled up against the end, like you might within the Flagship. The Beat is definitely more of a trad warrior. Again, it fits at that mid-range. It's not designed with outright performance, although, to be honest, this is something that I could see a lot of people doing harder trad routes in, as it definitely has the edge to it. Much like the Float, it's got a really high level of support throughout that forefoot. It's got 4.2mm RH rubber, that's the harder compound, so again, better for edging. It also features pressed rubber, which is a term I haven't heard used a lot. It essentially means that they roll out the rubber and then press it afterwards, which supposedly gives it a firmer feel and makes it harder wearing, but without compromising the stickiness. Now, whether or not that's actually true or noticeable is something that we'll cover within the review once they're released. The Beat features a full-length lace, which will allow you to customize the fit, but when it comes to that fit, these are definitely a wide shoe. They are not for the narrow-footed user out there. But when it comes to remaining volume, there's definitely adjustment to be had courtesy of the laces. Another nice feature is the toe patch along the side. The lacing itself is slightly asymmetric, and so this toe patch is going to be good for those people out there who are looking to climb cracks and want something to both protect their foot and also give them a bit more grip. We're looking forward to testing these out when they're released in spring, summer 2025, which feels like a long way away. Here we have the Drago XT, which joins the Drago and the Drago LV. The difference is that this is both narrower and lower volume. In fact, it's the lowest volume Scarpa shoe to date. Now, perhaps the most noticeable thing about the Drago XT is the heel, which is one piece and molded. It's also made of Scarpa's proprietary M50 rubber, which is super sticky stuff. Now, we haven't had a chance to wear these yet, but in the hand they feel super soft. This is going to be a heel that when you place it on, you will get a lot of response as to where that placement is and how good it is. I think it's fair to say that we have never seen a heel quite like this. Around the front of the shoe, you've also got that M50 rubber around the toe and plenty of it, which is great for toe hooking and use on volumes too. The other point of difference is the twin strap. Now the Drago has historically had one, but in order to better adjust the volume, this has a second further up the foot, which will allow you to customize the fit and get it right for you. When it comes to fit, we've already mentioned that they are narrow and low volume, but they aren't available in a men's or women's fit. They're just narrow and low volume. So irrespective of whether you're male or female, that is what is most important within this shoe. However, there is a bit of leeway within that. The materials used are exceptionally soft, and the chances are, if you've got a medium width foot, you may be able to wiggle your foot into them. But at the end of the day, we'll be able to say more when we review them next year. Scarpa's Instinct is a classic climbing shoe, and an exceptionally popular one at that. It's a really good performance all-rounder and fits, generally speaking, a lot of people. Now, part of the reason for this is because there's multiple differing versions. You've got the VS, which is a little bit more supportive, the VSR, which is a little bit softer, and you also have the low volume model as well, sitting alongside the existing low volume model. But this has softer materials, but also less tensioning throughout it as well. And as a result of this, it has a very different feel to the existing LV model. There's also been some tweaks to the design around the toe patch, with the toe patch now butting up to the material up top here to prevent it from lifting in the event of extreme or continued toe hooking. All in all, it complements the existing Instinct collection, with there now being 2 low volume models and 2 higher volume models at differing levels of support or softness. We have got the La Sportiva Ondra Comp climbing shoe. Now there's a lot of anticipation around this shoe, almost as much as whether or not Adam ends up within the Olympics himself. And this is a shoe that has been designed with the Olympics in mind, top-end comp climbing and performance climbing in general. Now the first thing you notice is that there is a lot of rubber around the toe, but this is no ordinary toe patch. It features La Sportiva's Sense Grip technology. Now, what does that mean? Well, the basic gist is that it's got cushioning on the underside, and it has an almost velvety feel to it. It's pretty luxurious stuff. And the idea is that it'll make those awkward toe hooks that bit more comfortable, but also help the shoe grip and form around that feature. When it comes to the underside of the shoe, it features Vibram XS Grip 2, their stickiest compound. And it also features this interesting horseshoe midsole. So the idea behind this, it's got that Flexan insert going around the outside, which helps give you support on edges. But then on the inside, it features that same Sense Grip technology, so that there's a depression where there's less rubber. And the idea is that that will give you more sensitivity while smearing. Basically, if you're going into the Olympics, what you want is something that has enough tension on those edges to keep you edging, but then also the ability to flex and give as much rubber to resin while smearing. When it comes to fit, it's sounding like they're either at the medium to narrow end of the spectrum, and when it comes to volume, they're a little bit on the low side, certainly lower than the likes of the Theory, also by La Sportiva. They're going to be released in October after the Olympics and are going to retail at £195, closing in on the £200 barrier. Boreal have updated their classic Mutant for 2025 with the Mutant 3. One of the most important updates is the rubber, which is now Boreal's Zenith Ultra 2. Now we've used this in a variety of differing shoes, including the Satori that we reviewed a few months ago. It is one of the stickiest out there, but it's ordinarily used on quite soft shoes, and whilst the Mutant is indeed soft in terms of its midsole, in terms of that forefoot, it actually has a good level of support. So it will be great for edging, but at the same time, because of that flexibility in the midsole, you can also get plenty of rubber to rock while smearing. So the Mutant's best described as a slipper with a strap, which is kind of different to just a plain shoe with a strap, because of the fact that actually the majority of its fit comes simply from the tensioning and the elastic used. And the strap can be used to refine that fit and secure your foot in place when you're climbing those technical problems. On the note of technicality, there is plenty of rubber over the toe for toe hooks. And on the back end, the heel has received a significant redesign and is much lower volume. It differs from the molded construction used throughout models such as the Satori. And whilst it's good to have models like that, they're good for rolling, this is arguably better for catching those crisp edges. It's also worth mentioning that Boreal have introduced a low volume and a higher volume model. Now these aren't being pitched as men's or women's and are available in full size ranges throughout both the low and the high. These will be hitting the shops in March 2025 and retail at £140. Boreal have been busy updating their collection, and here we have the update and improvement of the Synergy, which is their softest shoe. One of the major improvements has been the shift to Boreal's Zenith Ultra 2 compound. And this isn't just on the sole, but it's also on the toe patch and the heel. It's the first time the brand have featured that compound throughout all three. Basically, you've got their stickiest rubber in all of the parts of the shoe that you are going to be using on the climbing wall or out on boulder problems. Now, we've already mentioned this is soft, and this is a seriously soft shoe. If it's sensitivity you're after, this is what you want. It's going to be the sort of thing you'd wish to use whilst bouldering, particularly indoors, and certainly on those more modern style of boulder problems where there's plenty of toe hooks, there's plenty of volumes, and there's plenty of heel hooks and dynamic movements where you're going to be wanting to catch holds with big toe patches like that. It features a knit construction which has a pretty luxurious feel about it. So these are a narrower shoe and a lower volume shoe as well. So that power strap is integral to securing your foot in place. The Synergy features a refined molded heel, which I'd say is lower volume than the one used on the Satori. These will be available in March 2025 and will retail at £160.
We're looking at the new Ocun Diamond S. This is a new high-performance slipper from Ocun, and it looks great. It's a performance slipper construction with a single power strap closure. As you expect on a high-performance slipper like this, it has a really good toe patch and goes into a neoprene sock at the top. The toe patch and the neoprene sock are actually linked by this nicely taped area that's to help with sort of abrasion and wear and just make the whole shoe a little bit more seamless. Ocun have used their 3-4 system, which we've seen successfully tension shoes in previous models. And on the base of the shoe, we have this unique cutout system that allows really good flexibility in what is fundamentally quite a stiff front to this boot. As a first look at these shoes, we think they're going to be a really good outdoor performance shoe, particularly when it comes to pockets and limestone edges. All in all, this looks like a really smart shoe and a great offering that we'll look forward to seeing next year from Ocun.